Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode. In today's episode, me and Kim take a little bit of a journey to the land of Chicago. Well, it's like outside of Chicago, but to Hell's Gate. I think it's Lockport, Illinois is where it's at.
I think so.
Yeah. We also did go to Chicago, but which we might talk a little bit about that in this video, but we'll get more into that in a minute. We hope you enjoy this episode of Haunt Talk. If you watched me and Kim's video where we talked about our plans for 2024, we mentioned all the different places we're going to go to in Illinois, in like the Chicago area. Unfortunately, we only got to 3 of the 6. We got, of course, to Hell's Gate, this video, the old, how do you say it, Joliet prison, and then the 13th floor. Weirdly, we tried to go to a place called Disturbia. We paid and we got in there, but then the actual electricity shut off while you're in there, and we got evacuated and ended up basically coming where they couldn't open it for the rest of the night. So unfortunately, we will not have a review for that. We again only had like, I don't even think it was 5 minutes. It was like 3 to 5 minutes, but yeah. So obviously we can't review that because we only lived there for a little bit. But we do have the 3 that I just said, and the whole main reason going there was for Hell's Gate, so that we made that a priority. Yeah. But yeah. That being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the review, which as always means we must refer to the Book of the Dead! Book of the Dead! Book of the Dead! Book of the Dead! As always, sets and props. So I guess we'll kind of talk about too, well, maybe the sits and sets and props. Sometimes I say this at the beginning before we get into the review, sometimes I don't. But kind of like what the atmosphere of pulling up to the place and that is like. So you can't park on property. You park, I don't know, it was just kind of like a big parking lot somewhere. I don't really know what that parking lot would have been used for.
I think it was like a park or something. I don't know exactly, but yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of like back there. And they had like a couple like food trucks there. I think they had like 3 food trucks or like more like carnival, like fair type stands. Yeah. So there's that, and you have to actually get on a school bus ride, which online says it's like 5 minutes. I would beg to say it's like a 10-minute bus ride.
At least 10, yeah.
Which was kind of a cool little experience, honestly. There's nothing, like, spooky that happens on the bus at all. It's just literally a bus ride. But the first part's kind of just through this adorable little town. Again, I think it's Lockport. And there's one house there that's, like, really decorated up and stuff like that. But then you kind of get to what looks like a dead end. I actually thought it was a dead end. I thought that's where they were dropping us off at first. Yeah. It's kind of like just back in a little, like, residential cul-de-sac-ish kind of thing.
Yeah, so they take you down to this one road, and they kind of like just kind of stopped, and we're like, what's going on? And then they kept going down this like spooky road.
Yeah, it's really spooky, and like it's pretty narrow too, so this isn't a school bus. If another school bus meets up, the one has to get off kind of the side of the road so they can pass. That's what we were actually waiting for, is another school bus to exit. Yep. Yeah.
And then like there's nothing on this road at all except for like some like shipping containers and a couple like abandoned cars and stuff like that.
I didn't see any other roads branching off of it, and it was dark. I could be wrong, and I did not see any houses.
Yeah, I didn't see any houses either. And then finally it drops you off at Hell's Gate.
Yeah, basically just dead ends.
Dead ends at Hell's Gate. And that atmosphere, again, very party atmosphere. Yeah. They had some more like concession kind of things.
Mainly a bar at this point.
Yeah.
It was weird because obviously we're going to talk about everything in between, but at the end of the haunt is where they had like a midway. So like after you finish the haunt, then you were able to, it looked like, I think they had more snacks, maybe. I could be wrong about that. But I thought they did. They definitely had photo ops and like games and escape rooms you could play. Yeah. So like while a lot of places would have that before the haunt, I thought it was interesting that it was like
after.
Yeah, after the haunt, in a spot that you can't even see. Which is really cool the way this place is. Once you go through it, you're like, oh, because it really does feel like you go on a journey, which I'll talk about in a minute, but then you realize, like, all the farther away the main attraction is from the queue line when you're leaving, you're like, oh, it was right, you just can't see it because of the sight lines.
Yeah, yeah.
Which they were, I think, really good at. But, so all that being said, now we can really kind of get in the meat and the potatoes of sets and props. So, if you're completely unfamiliar with Hell's Gate, it's I kind of break it up into two separate parts, essentially. Yeah. There's an outside walking trail, and then there's the mansion. So the whole idea is that you're going through an adventure through these haunted woods, and then you stumble upon this giant mansion in the forest. That's kind of like the thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And it is really cool, the reveal of the mansion, I will say, as well. Once you get done with the forest, you're just kind of like walking, you can just see it looming in the distance, and of course it's all Halloween-y lit up. But yeah, so the walking path starts off with this really cool area where it's kind of like, I don't know, like pumpkin jack-o'-lantern kind of themed.
Yeah, like very like scarecrows, pumpkins, your traditional kind of spooky Halloween like farm kind of stuff, and then it gradually like turns into more like woods. There's like spooky woods, and there's like a little bit of a laser swamp put in there, which was actually pretty well done.
It was inside like of a building, which unfortunately the whole first section, which we'll talk more about this in actors, but we did catch up with people, but it did at least let us kind of look at things, I guess, a little bit. This is the kind of haunt where repeat visits would be awesome, because it is definitely one where there's just detail every single where you look. Like there's even a couple times, because again, the people in front of us were stoppers, and they would keep dead stopping, so I had time to just kind of look around, and there's just things everywhere. Like, I don't 100% know like where this place really truly is, like what kind of land it's on, but there's like rock faces, like little cliffs, and they'll even have like stuff up on top of that.
Yeah. There was like a weird like creature just standing up on this giant. I actually first thing I thought of was Pride Rock. It was just kind of like looming over everything, and I'm just like, what is that? Yeah, it was really strange area, and they took like full advantage of everything that was around them to make this walking trail.
Yeah, at one point you're like. Earlier on, someone had mentioned something about a cabin. I think there's like other stuff mentioning it, and eventually you do find this cabin in the woods, which is cool. It's not like giant, but it is a cabin they built out there, and you get to walk through that and stuff. Yeah. And like there's one thing that was kind of cool. There's kind of like, I think it was sort of like referencing the Evil Dead, not themed to the Evil Dead, because again, this is themed to itself, but there's like the trapdoors and something's trying to get out. And they had like a light underneath of the cabin floor that would like continuously strobe, so like this light was coming through all like the loose wood beams of the basement, which was like a cool lighting effect. And that's one thing I will say is like the outside portion in particular is like just lit immaculately.
Oh yeah.
And like with the fog, like they really have that like perfectedly done out.
It really does feel like you are a part of like a horror movie, and you have to like make this journey, because that's definitely what it felt like in here. Like the fog, the lighting, everything just really set the stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Eventually you get to a cemetery, which is also really, really cool and well done. Kind of what you would expect, but at a kind of a grander scale. Yeah. One thing we really liked after that, I think it's maybe you enter in a mausoleum. Not really sure what that building was. I think it was a mausoleum or a church that you enter.
Oh.
And then there's a casket. There's a bunch of like wood caskets, but then you eventually enter one, which gets really trippy because it's like the hallway is casket shaped and you're walking through it, and it's just like red lights, so there's like little, I guess, gaps in between for red lights.
Yeah. It was weirdly it was really thin. And very claustrophobic, but it was like the toe pincher kind of shaped, like old school caskets. And it was very like, it was like this weird little maze that you had to go through, and it really was like very trippy.
And then towards the end of that, there's like it's still casket shaped, but it's like see-through like mesh, I think. And then something like that. I forget exactly how it was set up, but they have like this thing that has like vines all over it that's like moving back and forth around you, which is a really kind of like
you're on like this bridge,
disorientating effect.
And like everything was moving around you, but the bridge was like still, but it still felt like you were moving because everything else around you was moving. It was really like a unique kind of take on like almost like a vortex tunnel, but not the swirly thing. It was just like
it was really
rocking
cool.
back and forth. Yeah.
And then after that, there's just a little bit more, but for the most part, I think then that's where you kind of get to this, like, long walk up to the mansion. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to the mansion, you're kind of stopped again, and then they, like, re-separate you. I think they do kind of send in, like, groups of 5 or 6, I think it is. I think it's 6 is what they were sending in. But then they put you into, I don't know what I would refer to that room, the first room that you really go into with the show. Is it like a study? I don't know.
I guess, yeah.
I don't know if it's supposed to be a living room, but there's a big picture. I forget what the picture is of. Is it of the twins?
It's the twins.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the twins. If you're familiar with the story of Hell's Gate, it's this man was coming to the new world to start a new life with his twin daughters. They unfortunately got very sick on the way there. They died of consumption. He decided to dedicate his life to basically building this house for them. And eventually he got into the occult and realized, ooh, I could try to bring my daughters back. Well, he brought something back. It wasn't his daughters, but he brought something back, and that is the darkness, and that is what basically is taking over this mansion and the property and the people that are in it. So that's basically the whole premise of Hell's Gate, is that this man who was mourning his family literally opened the gates of hell.
Yeah. So yeah, the place definitely has a cool story and stuff like that. But that scene's cool, which we'll talk a little bit more into actors. There's some, like, acrobatics and, like, aerial stuff that happens. You go through a library, which is really freaky because of the way that, like, the bookshelves are, like, falling against the walls and you walk through them like this. So you're, like, right up face to face with the bookshelf, and there may or may not be things in there. Let's see. What was after that?
Doll room?
Yeah, there was the doll room, which is cool because they actually have a giant dollhouse in there that is the mansion of Hell's Gate.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like, in between walls. So that's part of the story that actors would tell you, like, get into the walls. So, like, you're kind of, like, in the walls going to these different rooms of the house. So a way to sneak around, I guess, the darkness or whatever.
Yeah, because, like, the help, like, the maids and butlers and things like that are still in this house. And they're trying to get you out safely through, trying to travel through the house safely. And yeah, they're like telling you to go in the walls because it can't see you when it's in the walls.
Right.
When you're in the walls. So that's what they're trying to do, even though, they're obviously corrupted as well. But they're trying to help you before it's too late.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird floors and stuff in this place as well.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. There's some of them are just like soft. Some would like had like the wickety whack floors, that kind of thing. There was 2 instances of live bugs. The first one is pretty early on in the house, and it's just these containers of the cookies are fake, but there's real mealworms or maggots, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 containers filled with them. It's pretty gross. At first, I thought they were just projections, and I'm like, that's real. And then there's a third place where you're held like halfway through the house, and in there was live cockroaches, a lizard, a snake. There might have been 1 or 2 other living things.
There was like
a
big lizard. I think it was like a Gila monster, and maybe an iguana or 2. There was a bunch of different creepy
there's
things.
a few like on the wall.
Worms.
So. Yeah. That was kind of creepy, especially looking at because bugs and like seeing those hissing cockroaches. So then you get to the second half of the house after that, which pretty quickly, well, the first thing you have to like choose a different size of box. They all lead to the same place, but like just one's like the big one that I think you just walk through, where like the small one you actually have to kind of like literally crawl on your hands and knees. So if you don't want to crawl, I'd choose the big one. So it was like an attic scene, and then you actually get to go down a slide.
Hey!
It's not a real fast slide, but it's still cool that they do that. And it's a weird one because you actually all get to go down at once to not break up the pace. So like, a lot of them are like those tube slides. You have to go 1, 2, 3, but this one, everyone, it's like just like a slide that's on a wall, and everyone goes down that together. Which leads into a lab scene. And then there's a couple scenes after the lab as well. They're like this, where they call them like an open concept type of scene.
Yeah, where you just kind of like, things are all over the place, but you just kind of traverse through this giant room and just see all this stuff going on around you. There was like a million freaking dragons and big monsters of some sort.
Yeah, in the second part. The lab didn't have the dragon. The lab was more, lab themed.
Lamp themed.
like lots of gurneys, like test tubes type of stuff. I think there was like monsters on beds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then there's the giant dragon cave. They also had a lot of puppets, like were coming out of like all the holes, I feel like. So that was pretty neat. One of the scenes towards the end of the hunt that I really liked, I can't remember if it was before or after the dragons, because there's so much crammed into this place, really.
Yeah.
There's almost no dead space. Like the closest thing to dead space would be like when you're traveling through the walls, but even that, there's interesting things that are happening, whether it be with like actors or just like something going on that's lighting. But anyways, you're walking across, I believe it's supposed to be like a bridge, and there's like a lot of holes and stuff like that for people to jump out, which is cool for distraction because there's a giant puppet monster at the end. So you like see this thing at the end of the bridge that you're going to, and it just really helps as a distraction, which is something that the sets and props do really good in this place, is act for distractions, because there's things just up, down, and also at eye level, so you're just constantly looking around. But yeah, sets and props was absolutely awesome. And also, again, that outside section, we didn't do any of it because we didn't have time, because we really cut it close getting to the second one, which we'll talk about a little bit more in value about Fast Pass. But yes, we absolutely adored the sets and props in this place. It did not disappoint. We gave it a 10 out of 10.
Yes.
If you don't mind getting like, a little bit spoiled or something, I would recommend going and watching that Grim Life episode on this place. This is what made us want to go, because they actually have 2 episodes at this point. One doing a daytime tour, kind of like we did in our own documentary series, Hunt Behind the Scary. You can go watch that. But then they also did one with the lights like off. I'd at least watch the lights on one, just to kind of get an idea of how much stuff is here and all of that, to kind of really entice yourself. I'm probably going to go back and watch it again now being there too, to kind of see some of those details that I missed, because it's been a while since I watched that video. But so now we will get into actors. And this is one of the things I was most excited about too, was after watching that video, it really seemed like these actors were like really, really into this place. Theater, I think as he described in the video, theater brats. And wow, they take their roles seriously. I don't think I've ever seen actors that are like, that are like on this level in a haunted house.
No,
like above acting, at least. It was crazy.
It like just watching, like, while we were in the queue, like the queue line actors doing things that I've never really seen in a queue line. Like the one guy was juggling knives. The one was just crawling around in between people's feet, all contorted. One guy was eating fuzzies that he found on the floor, which I thought was disgusting. And like just random weird stuff, jumping all around. There was a guy on stilts, like on gravel, which I thought was amazing, because I mean, gravel's not very safe to walk on that kind of stuff. And then once you get in the house, like the people that were in there, like they were everywhere, and they were just so into it. Like it was just amazing. I've never seen actors the way that this place had actors. Yeah,
it was really cool. It's hard to describe just the way they acted. There was none of them that. There's none of them that didn't seem like they wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And just the amount for as long as this haunt is, because it is definitely a lengthy haunted house experience. Just, man, there's so many of them. And we got quite a few good scares as well. So when you start outside, like the first portion, they were kind of like creatures, I think, because you had me put it on as possums. Like, I don't know what they were, but they were like weird rat creature looking things.
I thought they looked like possums, but yeah, I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
They were some sort of creature.
Yeah, they were definitely weird looking. One of the cool things that we kind of briefly mentioned earlier about being interesting is when we got caught behind those people. I think this is what was happening. There was an actor who was like trying to get them to like actually move.
Yeah.
To try and make it so the people behind them's experience stopped getting ruined. And just watching him, kind of all the things he was trying to like basically do to get these people to move was just really cool to show how good the communication is here, I guess.
Yes.
And how they try and fix problems, because pretty much every single actor had an earpiece, and if you look hard enough, you could see that, especially like the Q-line people, like the big actors. And stuff like that. But yeah, the outside ones, they tried their best to get us. It was hard just because it became a giant conga line.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, we did get separated when we got to the house from them. But there's definitely more in the house than there were outside.
Yeah.
But there's a few memorable spots, but the one part I remember about the actors is in the cemetery. There's like this wall of, I don't remember if it was caskets or tombstones, but there's so many different places they could pop out of this wall.
Yeah. That was crazy because, yeah, they were literally everywhere. They were inside the casket. They were between the caskets. They were under the caskets. It was just incredible. Yeah, one came crawling out from, like, underneath the casket. Yeah. It was just...
They were just everywhere.
Wow.
There's even a few people, like, in the cabin. And again, they have the place designed pretty smartly, too, where they can easily, like, scare you multiple times within their scene, which I liked. So getting into, like, the mansion itself, of course, you have, like, the first big show scene where the actual twins come out of that painting and they fly over you. Yeah. That's really cool. But the other thing that I really liked about it is they're reciting this whole thing about, like, the darkness, and as they're twitching, everyone in sync, the other actors, I think there's 3 of them in that room, are all kind of, like, doing, like, the twitching and stuff in sync as well because, you know, the darkness is also, like, possessing them. That was cool. Then one of the first scenes, the first, like, big scare I got of the night, again, I didn't get any big scares outside because of the giant conga line, but it was like, I got scared a lot, especially for the first half of this house, because I was leading through this part. But the first big one in that library section where the whole bookshelf is, like, tilted over, because again, it's tilted so, like, the books are, like, this far from your face, and there's someone in the black hall that just screamed in my face. And then you have to loop around it and go through it again. So again, everyone that's working in that middle of this, like, bookshelf thing can get you multiple times. And, you know, they'll just, like, stick an arm out in front of you or scream at you. And that, yeah, I got scared a couple times in there. I like it when haunted houses aren't afraid to, like, bring the scene super close to you.
Yeah.
And they did that a few times, I feel like, as well.
Oh, yeah, I constantly had hands, like inches away from my face that I thought for sure it was just going to grab me. At one point, they were just popping out of, like, nowhere. Like, I couldn't even tell, like, how that person got into that area.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, doors you have to, like, push to open as well, and I swear every single time I had to push a door to open, there was someone on the other end that was scaring the crap out of me. One of the really funny interactions was a girl in one of the many scenes. I think this might have been, like, in the lab scene, maybe. I don't remember, actually, but she scared me, and it was more of just, like, it wasn't like a real big jump scare, but I just went, you know, and she said, that was a lowercase scream, which was funny, but then she took it upon herself to get me a little bit later, and she got a real good scream out of me, and she goes, there we go, that's an uppercase scream. So that was pretty hilarious. I liked that a lot.
Yeah, there was people, like, in the building, like, attached to zip lines and bungees and, like, overhead, and, like, they were quite literally everywhere.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the bungee lady. Yeah, because the girl that flew with us, just a random hallway, and all of a sudden someone flies over you. But yeah, it's really close to the end where it kind of makes it look like there's a fog wall that you need to walk through. At least that's what I thought. Because, like, the path is going straight, and it looks like you should keep going straight, but then someone on a bungee comes flying out of the fog at you because the path you need to take is to the left. That really got me, because I didn't even notice that wasn't a path. I was not expecting an actor to come flying from the ceiling at my face like that. Scared the shit out of me. The Dragon Queen lady at the end was really cool, and, like, there's some actors that are lower because, you know, as you're looking up at the dragons, they're kind of, like, scaring you and stuff. But going back to those kind of, like, open concept scenes, it was just crazy because, again, the way it's designed is you're kind of walking around stuff, like, especially the lab scene. There's, like, a bunch of gurneys and, like, I don't know what you want to call, like, the, like, medical mannequin type of things, whatever, and you're walking around that, and there's so many actors in this small part, but since it's just a big circle, they can just run all around and just get you multiple times, and they're jumping up on gurneys. One took one of the, like, the big, whatever, mannequin things, and, like, took it and, like, shoved it down at me, which scared me. Just very, like, creative in the way that they're just, like, all over the place.
Yeah. And they had like platforms and stuff that like numerous ones would just stand on and then just come out at you. Like, I think they even might have had bungees on them to keep them up there so that they could do like things like this where they pushed forward and stuff like that. Because a few times they did stuff that just was unnatural. I'm like, how are you doing that? Like, how are you coming down at me and not falling on me?
Yeah. Also, their makeup was phenomenal as well,
gosh.
I will say. Because, you know, they all have that kind of like the dark, well, not all of them, but most of them have like that the darkness is taking over kind of thing. So I like that they do the extra mile and even want to show the story and the detail of the makeup and stuff like that. That's really cool. But like I said, just so many of them. They're so impressive. Just, yeah, actors we're giving a 10. They were absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's hard to believe how many of them that there were.
There was just so many. Like, I really don't think that, like, any area had less than at least 4 or 5, if that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it just was crazy. So many actors.
Yeah, I would really like to experience this place again. Unfortunately, it's pretty far from us. It's like, depending on traffic, because traffic in that area is something else. But it's like 6 to 6.5 hours away from us, and it's just like... but it's just one of those things where I think you could discover new details, like I said before, just in everyone, and because the actor's so good, I think you're going to get a completely different performance, like each time you get as well. I mean, with as many as there are.
Yes.
You're never going to remember all those hiding spots, even if they didn't change anything up. But yes, that brings us to scare factor. So, there's a ton of jump scares. They do not touch here. And I also wouldn't say that it's super gory, because that's not really what they're going for. There's, I think, some gore here and there, but it's nothing, like, outrageous. Yeah. Not really. Not that I've ever really found gore to be particularly scary in a haunted house. That's not what really makes them scary to me. But
if you have, like, phobias, like we mentioned before, like there's bugs and snakes and insects.
No, they don't touch you with them. They're
like,
no. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. But they are, like, in glass containers.
Yeah,
but just seeing them might,
Or, like, there's a lot of places that are very claustrophobic.
Yeah, there's definitely some tight squeezes.
Yeah, so if that's a thing, like we said, the cabin that had the coffin, like, hallway thing, that was very claustrophobic because it's a tight area.
Unfortunately, of course, like, the outside portion, we didn't get a ton of scares. Now, it's not the haunt's fault, and they tried to fix it a lot. Yeah, I mean, we've definitely been to, like, scarier, like, even though there are a ton of actors, it is a little bit more... Even though there's a decent amount of jump scares, it is a little more theatrical and stuff like that, and almost more entertaining in some parts. But again, I did get quite a few decent scares, but I would, like, compare it to, if I was comparing it to, like, Ghoul Brothers, in Akron, Ohio, if you're familiar with their channel, you've talked about it. If you're not, if you live in Chicago and you're watching this review, like I said, we're closer to them. But where Ghoul Brothers has a ton of actors, I feel like they're, like, more in your face, less theatrical, like, just constant jump scare after jump scare after jump scare, and that's why we gave them a 10 this year. This place we're giving an 8.75 because while we do believe it's really scary, they're kind of leaning into being a little bit less scary and more of, like, this grand theatrical kind of performance.
Telling a story more than really getting that scare,
Yeah, but I wouldn't know. You haven't been to every haunted house in that area, but I would say I would imagine this one probably is one of the scariest, like, because again, like, an 8.75, like, I found it, as many as we go to, and for one that doesn't touch, like, I found some of the scares to be pretty intense in this place, but I would say, like, I wouldn't bring, like, kids here or anything like that, but they do seem to be decent at, like, not absolutely destroying you if you're, like, freaking out and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely a pro level haunt. So, and they have some, like, use of boot pedals and stuff like that. But most of it's just them jumping out and getting you. So now value. Let's see. All the places, which I stopped doing for the other two reviews because it's annoying. So online it's $40 with a $3 fee, or on site it's $45. And this is, like, another common occurrence that you'll see in the other two we review. Is they all want to say it's cheaper to buy online, but then they charge you a fee, which makes it barely cheaper at all. At least this one you save $2. VIP is $60 with a $3 fee, or $65 on site. Now, VIP is just a shorter line, but you still could wait, so that's why they have the instant entry for $80 online, $85 on site. I'm assuming they both have $3 fees. Then they have an all access well, she had like a backstage tour and all of this stuff and blah 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 blah. You can go look all this up. Then they have one that's really weird and interesting, which is the Hell Pass, which is like you pay $160 and you have to like let them know 24 hours ahead of time, and you tell them a person's name in your group and they like target them more.
Yeah.
I don't know who's buying that and who that's for and who that's worth, but
I'm kind of sad that we didn't get to see that happen, but it really intrigues me. I've never seen this at a haunted house before.
It's really weird. $160 seems like a wild price.
It is a wild price.
But again, I don't know what's all included, so if you know anyone that's done it or done it, let us know. I'm really curious what that is. Now, I could see how the other one, some people might want to do the other 161, which is the all access pass, because you get the backstage tour.
Yeah.
It says you also get a photo with your favorite character, but like, I don't know.
How do you choose?
And a t-shirt. But yeah. But again, we always just grade off of like the price, the general admission that you have to pay. Now, I will say, we did not do the VIP pass. I kind of wish we would have, because the queue line, because they do try their best to separate you as much as they can. It did move kind of slow. I thought it was going to be, well, it was weird. When we got on the bus, someone told us, hey, they're going to be selling fast passes at the house. The wait right now is like an hour and 15 minutes. When we get there, they say, oh, I heard someone say that the wait time is going to be 35 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, 35, no problem. No, it was definitely like an hour.
Yeah, it was actually.
Yeah. So if you're trying to go to multiple haunts, I would definitely say get the VIP, or if the line looks like really long and you only got general, you can upgrade it. Now, the one thing is they said, we didn't do it, but they had said before we got on the bus that they were running a special where they'd upgrade you to VIP for $15. So I'm not saying, I mean, they probably sell out, but it looks like you might be able to get it on a discount.
Yeah.
Some nights.
Yeah, because online it's $20 more. So.
Right. But I don't know if they charge it. I don't think they charge a fee for that. It's just the one fee. But yeah, I don't know. But it was 45 minutes long, which is what they advertise it as. Yeah. So I will say, because I started soon. I don't know if I did start. I don't think I did stop and start at like the couple little lines and waited inside, but those are pretty short. And also, like, it's still kind of part of the show because you're being very interacted with that whole time. It's not like a full-length queue line. You're basically being told, hey, stand here, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not gonna like count that as times I should have paused it, because you're still being entertained. You're still actually inside the attraction.
Yeah.
But yeah, for value, we gave it a 9. I mean, it's a long haunt. The quality's really great. Prices are a tiny bit. I mean, honestly, I would say $45 is pretty normal. I mean, it's definitely on the higher end of at least ones like in Ohio.
Yeah.
But I've definitely seen more expensive haunts. But for the quality you're getting, I think that's a pretty fair price. And then so that brings us to our overall score, which we gave a 9.75. Absolutely glad we went to this place.
Oh, yeah.
It did not disappoint really at all. I wish we wouldn't have got caught up to the people in the beginning, but obviously, again, not the haunt's fault. But I did love the fact that they tried to fix the situation as best as they could. But yeah, you absolutely should go to this one. If you're going to Chicago, you should prioritize this one over the other ones, I would say. Yeah. Again, we only got to go to 3 of them. Well, technically, we went to 4, but just didn't actually get to go through the 4th one. But that Disturbia haunt, though, I will say, like, they were nice and they understood that we didn't live nearby, so they are like refunding the money back and stuff like that. Yeah. So they're doing the right thing. It's not their fault. It was like a whole situation. But have you been to Hell's Gate? What do you think about it? Let us know. Make sure you're liking. Make sure you're subscribing. Make sure you're ringing the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future upcoming videos. Like I said, also this week, if you're watching this when it actually comes out, you'll get to see a review for that old Gillette prison and 13th floor. All right. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.